Jujutsu Kaisen episode 23 is very good, just like the other episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen. But what really stood out to me, I guess, would be the whole domain expansion thing and how Gojo had a talk with him like, hey, you just think about things wrong. Like, hey, if it was me or Yuji, like, we just like, you know, push past our limits, do our best or whatever. But you just like, hey, you're all self-sacrificing. And he was like, that's a different mindset. And that's why we're always going to be stronger than you.
Yeah. So what I really like about Jujutsu Kaisen as a whole is that to know me is to know that I'm very character driven, and what I like is that everybody feels like a main character. Like nobody feels like they are just fodder, which feels really nice. But also I like that within our main trio you have Itadori, Yuji, and he is our main protagonist. He's the one who ate the Sukuna's finger to gain cursed powers, and he gets stronger, but he is also arguably maybe not the strongest. And I kind of like that.
Gojo's definitely the strongest.
Oh yeah, Gojo is definitely the strongest. And I like, I was telling Ben about this earlier, I really like that Gojo feels kind of like Kakashi Sensei if he was one of the team versus just their teacher. Like Gojo's definitely the strongest and he's definitely their teacher. He's definitely showing them the ropes and guiding them along the way. But he also gets in on their shenanigans, which I really appreciate because it feels like a very different dynamic. He doesn't feel just like a carbon copy of Kakashi Sensei, which I could see people like just attributing that to him. But what I really liked about this episode is kind of like what Ben said is he's talking to Megami, or I think they call him something else. But
I don't remember. But if you watch the episode, you know who we're talking
about. But Gojo calls him Megami. And, you know, he's got kind of a sordid past. All of them do. Honestly, if you can see curses, you don't have a nice life. That's just what it boils down to. You know what?
That makes sense. That's probably why they all have sad backstories.
Yeah. But I really liked that it's been hinted at that Megami is way more powerful than what he has been currently able to attain. And I like the way that Gojo broke it down, because usually in anime, sometimes you get like this really deep, introspective type conversation that comes at the last minute where they push past them. And it's just like, no, Megami went to Gojo and he was like, I want to train to get stronger. And it was just like, Gojo was like, you usually don't ask me, is it really bothering you that much that Yuji is stronger? And I like the way that he broke down the differences between Gojo and Yuji and where they fall and where Megami is, because he's like, it's not that you lack potential, you have just as much potential as Yuji, if not more than Yuji does. However, the difference is like, and he took the baseball game. I like that as a teacher, he took a real world example and was like, let me show you exactly the difference in mindset that's holding us back. And he took the baseball episode, which, not even gonna lie, when we saw the thumbnail for it, we thought it was a filler episode. So I'm really glad that we watched it, because it is definitely not a filler episode.
Yeah.
But he was like, you did a sacrificial bunt, and it's like, did you really not believe that your teammate could make it onto base? And he was like, well, you have to work with other jujutsu sorcerers or whatever.
So isn't teamwork important or whatever?
Right. And Gojo was like, in baseball, yeah, it's a team sport, but being a sorcerer is an individual sport. So the difference between us is like how you went to do a sacrificial bunt. Me and Yuji, we would have went for a home run every time. And it's just like, that is such a clear denominator of the type of mindset that you have. And maybe it's just because like I grew up with a brother who played baseball, and I understand the purpose of like a sacrificial bunt and, you know, your heavy hitters who go for home runs and so on and so forth. And there's really a strategy to it. And knowing that if you go for a home run every single time, like that will really mess up the game. You can't play a team sport going for a home run every time. That's just not how it works. You cannot win the game that way. So it's just like the fact that he's like, we're so self-centered, we're so focused on ourselves, we're so much like, we are going to get better no matter what, there are no limits. You know, that mindset is what sets us apart. Yeah. And then he was like, he said something really profound, and I'm probably butchering it, but he was like, there's a difference between risking death and
There's a difference between putting your life at risk to win and risking your life to win, or something like that.
Yeah, but basically what it boiled down to, he's like, there's a difference between putting your life, but there's a difference between risking death and betting on death. There's a difference between going into a fight and saying, I'm putting my life at risk to do this thing, and going into a fight saying that I'm going to die in order to win this fight.
Yeah, I'll succeed at the cost of my life.
Yeah, those are two different mindsets, and he again showed him the difference between him and Yuji. And he was like, Yuji is not going to be like, I'm going to die here, even if I can win and that means my death, then that's what I'm going to do. That's not his first line of thought. He's like, I'm going to live and survive, but if I die, then so be it. He's kind of like Luffy in the first episode, where he's like, if I die doing the thing, then I die doing the thing. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
If I die, then I die.
And that is why I like Jujutsu Kaisen. But keeping that in mind, what was so dope about this episode, about episode 23 specifically,
because he changed his mindset.
He changed his mindset on the spot. And what I love
mid-battle
is how they preface it with being like, the growth of a Jujutsu sorcerer is not necessarily a gentle curve, but meaning it can spike. And when you see it, and I love how they animated it, so like you can see in his facial features where he was basically just like, F it, I'm finna do the thing. It may not be the best thing, it may not be stable, but I'm gonna do it.
It might be sloppy, but you know what? Right now, here's the time.
This is what I got. And then he did it.
He does his own domain expansion.
And you see him having fun. And I think that is something that we haven't really seen in him yet.
You see him put in short work, and it's just like, and you flash back, and at the beginning of the battle, it's just like he was comparing this curse that ate one of Sukuna's fingers to the curse at the beginning in like the first few episodes.
And they're the exact same curse. That's important to remember. They're the exact same curse.
He said that one was stronger.
Right, but the one he is fighting now is stronger. And before, the first time, he ran away. And what I like is how all the things came back. And y'all know I'm really big on breadcrumbs and leaving those little tidbits. And so I really liked when Sukuna had taken over Yuji's body and was talking to him, and he was like, why did you run? And he was like, you have more potential than this. Like, I want to see what comes of it. And I like that Sukuna, the curse, talking to him is what led him to start pushing past his limits and being like, I have more in me than this, because
I have other options.
That's how he came up with the sword thing when he was training with when he was training for the sister event.
Yeah, when he was training for the I forget what they call it, the sister festival,
the tournament or whatever. But
the thing that they didn't actually do.
But I like how they worked in that there are certain moments in your life that stay with you, even if they don't stay with the other part of that conversation. And that conversation stayed with him to the point where it's not only driving him to create more Shikigami and to wield more at the same time and to come up with new ways to use his abilities, but it's also pushing him to be like, I'm going to try this domain expansion, and even if it doesn't work, it is sloppy, it doesn't matter, because I can do it and I know that I can do it. And he has a moment where he's like, I want my future self to like laugh at how much I've surpassed my limits. Like he doesn't even want to be the same person, essentially. And I love a good character arc. I love good development, especially when they're not our protagonists. And he had so much growth, and I love when untapped potential starts to get tapped in. But
yeah, because like there was hardly any Yuji in this episode, and it still was great.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's one thing I like about Jujutsu Kaisen. Everyone is important. Everyone has flaws. Everyone has strengths, and everyone is important to the team.
Everyone is their own character. They're a legit character. They're not like side little ancillary background filler characters just to move the plot along. Like they're legit characters. I feel like they're real people in this world.
I feel like I could follow the story of literally any character in Jujutsu Kaisen, and I would still be really happy with the story, no matter which character it was, whether it was Gojo, whether it was Megumi, whether it was Toto, like I really would like to follow him.
Toto.
You know, I really love this show. It's got great animation, and I like the pacing of the arcs, because normally when you get an ongoing show like this where it does like 2 seasons, you usually have a lull in the action at some point, and then it's not like that. Like every episode something is happening in Jujutsu Kaisen, and it keeps me hyped. It keeps me excited.
It's been fun. It's felt worthwhile every single week that we've watched it. I never felt like, oh, that wasn't satisfying, or oh, this episode was kind of down. You know, I felt like every episode was satisfying, and that's something that you rarely get to say in an anime, especially one that goes for 24 episodes at a time.
Yeah. So I am really excited to see where it goes. Like I said, it's one of my favorite anime this season. I will definitely be keeping an eye on it. I'm tempted to read the manga, but I'm not there yet. Like, I want to finish out the anime season at the very least. But yeah, I could rant about Jujutsu Kaisen all day, but we are not going to do that because we have some other stuff that we have to talk about that we just haven't had a chance to yet. So that's it for the Jujutsu Kaisen discussion.